All right. Morning, everybody. Sunday morning. I was not able to stream yesterday, but today is a different story. Gotta increase the size of my font here. There we go. All right, now we're good to go. So let's play some rapid or slower chess, classical. All right, we've got a 10-5 to start us. Let's start with e4. And a lot of people have been playing e5, I find, recently, which means I get to practice my King's Gambit. So the best move for black here is to take the queen. It looks like they can win a rook, which is true, but that's actually not a good line for black. What winds up happening is I would have taken his queen. Yes, he would have won the rook, but his queen in the corner would have been stuck for a few moves, and I've got enough of an initiative to attack the black king. So it's actually a better variation for white. Okay, so we get this endgame, 6 pawns, and he's got 7. So we're down a pawn. But we have a lead in development in exchange for it. We've got our 2 knights out, and the rook on h2 is active. Okay, so I could play knight to d5. Which actually doesn't look like such a bad idea, because then I threaten c7. So I think I will do that. Either king d7 or king d8. Probably king d8. But after king d8, I'm going to play d4. And my bishop, that could be a nasty check to deal with. So again, I'm down a pawn, but I've got a lead in development. Okay, knight c6, that makes sense. Develop a piece. Now I could try to get the 2 bishops here. Play bishop g5. And if bishop here, I could take, and then I've got the 2 bishops. I suppose they could go knight back, but that would be a self-pin. Generally don't like to self-pin. But I like that idea. I mean, let's get... Okay, I thought we were going to grab the two bishops there, but they've decided to go for the self-pin. Okay. Now I could win the pawn back by playing bishop to f6. Rook moves, and then I grab on h7. It's actually not so bad, because then I'd be threatening f7. Or I could continue bringing more pieces into the game. Castle. You go maybe bishop c4. I mean, I like the idea of keeping this pin. That's quite uncomfortable to deal with. Okay, well, I'm going to just grab the pawn. Regain the material. Okay, that's the only downside about grabbing the materials. Now he's going to shoo away my knight. So where do I put the knight? Go to c3, e3, f4. Those moves seem logical to me. Let's go e3, keep it centralized, and it also looks at the g4 square and f5 squares. g4 in particular, if my opponent was thinking of playing bishop to g4, gives me the opportunity to take it. So if black wants to hold on to their f7 pawn, how are they going to do that? Okay, first they're going to attack the dark squared bishop. And again, I like the idea of maintaining that pin. If I can achieve that, I could play e5. e5 certainly maintains the pin. We're still threatening f7. And if he were to take, well, that opens up the d file for us too, so it gives us a chance if we castle, we get a tempo on the king. So it might make more sense for black to keep it closed. Okay, that to me feels wrong, unless there's a concrete idea that I'm missing. Not sure why my opponent chose to open up more lines towards the king. Although, what happens after king e8? Yeah, maybe that's what my opponent is asking. What do you got after this move? So I think black just wants to play rook h6 here. Get rid of my rook there. I could play bishop to c4. Then I guess they could play bishop e6. So maybe the best thing for me to do is just to castle. The only downside of a castling is that after rook h6, am I obligated to take? Because if I take, then they take back with the bishop, and they've got a pin on my knight. So it might actually make more sense not to castle. Is knight c4 a threat to go into here? That's actually an interesting idea. How did they stop that? I suppose they could just move the knight. Yeah, knight c4, maybe just knight d5, and then they're hitting the bishop. Okay, let's just get the rook involved and concede the point that black is going to, if they want, evict my rook. Okay, I don't like the idea of developing his bishop for him, but you can't have everything. Now I could go knight c4 with the idea of hopping in here. Knight d5. Well, maybe I can. Yeah, I'm not so sure here. I may have lost my advantage. Maybe after knight d5, I throw the check in, then I just bring the bishop back. Okay, well this is going to win a pawn, at the very least. I want to win the pawn, though. Maybe it's more efficient to take away this square from his pieces. Yeah, I kind of like that idea. Try to keep the clamp on the position. So now it's just really a matter of getting my light squared bishop into the action. Maybe black should just play bishop g7. Try to get that bishop out of there, because if I do move back, well then that drops the e5 pawn. Of course, maybe right now is not the best, because I do, or do I, after rook b8, then they're going to grab here once I move the knight. Okay, so there, I thought I could just take on b7. Or do I take the knight? Unless I have something concrete, I'm not going to take that knight, because my knight is a beast. So let's take here. Maybe that's the idea. Yeah, right there. Okay. Okay, I see your move. I see your move. Now, my thinking was to play rook d8. Trade the rooks. And I think that's still my plan here. So I'm threatening to take the bishop with check. So normally they could take here, I take back, and then this is check. But when they take here, I'm not obligated to take the bishop right back right away. So I would take here first, throw in a check, and then I would take the knight. That way I don't lose this pawn. Okay, well now I think I should just snap that up, and now I have the two bishops. Two bishops and an extra pawn. I'm going to be careful here though. You might go knight here to grab that. I may not be able to stop that. Bishop e2 or bishop d3. I don't know what if it really matters. Bishop h3 is also an idea. That gives this up. Maybe bishop d8 is the best move, because my bishop is a little vulnerable here because of here. I'm pretty much obligated to trade it off. But bishop d8, bishop c7, holding on to that. And bishop d6. doesn't look like I'm going to be able to maintain the two bishops. So I would prefer that black take my light squared bishop, because then it's dark squared bishop against dark squared bishop. And I'm up an extra pawn. Okay, there's a check, but how does that help? Oh, I see. They're going to win this guy. That's clever. I missed that. Nice tactic. They're going to win that guy and this guy. So that was a big blunder by me. That's very unfortunate. So now I'm going to have to bail out and try to weasel a draw. Is that what we're going to have to do? Yeah, that's really too bad. I missed that idea. Okay, well, what can you do? So now I want to go into an opposite colored bishop endgame, and I'll just offer the draw. Yeah, nicely done by my opponent to save that. I missed that tactic. So the idea here, after check, if I go here, of course they grab the bishop, and they're going to win that. So interesting, Engine is only giving this as 0.3. So it looks like I did not have as big of an advantage as I thought. So let's look at that. This is the opening. Now my opponent correctly took the queen. If you play check, yes, you're going to win the rook in the corner, but as I explained in the game, the queen is very misplaced there, and white takes advantage of that fact, and also the fact that black doesn't have a lot of pieces developed. And we attack the king, and this is, as you can see, the engine is giving this as plus 2.7. So it's very good for white. So my opponent correctly plays. He plays d6, nothing wrong with d6, but he could have actually just played d5 too, because actually d5 I'm curious about. Anyway, d6 makes sense too. You're attacking the knight, so I went to e3, took on h2, and now yeah, I was wondering in the game whether I played that a little too hastily. I didn't have to take back right away. Engine is actually saying hop in with one of the knights and threaten to take on c7. Yeah, so here my opponent is self-pinned. Now this shows how big of an advantage white has. The engine is saying +1, and I'm currently down a pawn. So normally you would think that that would be -1 in black's favor, but my positional advantage is so great that it doesn't matter. And in fact, engine does recommend the line that I played in the game, which is this route. Okay, so now engine is saying, instead of knight e3, it looks like knight e3 was not accurate. I mean, made sense for me, I mean, to keep the pin, but the engine says I could just simply take and then take on f7. And I'm up a pawn. That would have made things a lot easier. It does look like, that's interesting, looks like black is going to regain material here. Well, I was going to say, because it looks like I can't play this move, but I actually can because I can block the check. There's an even better move. I could just take the d6 pawn and then play e5. Okay, so inaccuracy with knight e3. And okay, didn't mind my e5. It says bishop h4. In hindsight, yeah, I think leaving the pawn on e4, there's some merit. It takes away those two squares. So this move does make sense. And after here, king f2. Yeah, point 2. So still fairly level, I guess. Okay, well this is what I did, which the engine doesn't mind either. Now I guess here, instead of rook d1 was where I really lost the advantage. Could have played bishop c4. That's interesting because I looked at that in the game. So the immediate threat is simply bishop takes f7, winning the rook. Now if black plays rook g1 check, I can actually sacrifice the rook. Interesting. I must have, there's a check. Okay, king d7, rook h8, rook takes. Okay, so I've got an extra pawn for the exchange. And, oh, I'm going to win the knight. Yeah, the knight's, it's going to be hard for black to keep the knight. Or am I? Hold on here. There's here, check, king d6. And it wants to play, oh, that's cute, c4. The idea being that, yes, that's a free rook, but after check, if the king takes this way, we play bishop takes e7 and we win back the rook. And here, it looks like we're going to simply move the bishop and we're going to get a queen. So yeah, interesting. Looks like bishop c4 was the move that would have maintained the advantage. All right, well, very interesting game. Well played again to my opponent. And, well, we've got somebody, GM Fischer. It says that they're away. Okay. Okay, let's see if we can find another 10-5. Got a 7-1, 25-15. Yeah, I don't know. 8-8-0 without an increment would be a little too fast for me while I'm streaming. Could play the 2100 in time control of 25-15. Let's see if we can find somebody at 15-10. See if anybody will accept our challenge. And we've got somebody. All right. 2200, 15-10. What will they open with? E4. Okay, let's continue to work on our Sicilian. Okay, go for the dragon. Okay, so this is the Hungarian dragon when I play h5. This was popularized by Richard Rapport, I believe. So one of the ideas is to deter White's kingside pawn advance. And the other idea is that we sometimes want to play bishop h6, and it's useful to have the rook to protect the bishop there. So what I really like about this setup for black is that I don't think a lot of white players, when they are looking for a line against the dragon, I doubt that they're looking at this early h5 line. You know, they're often looking at the Yugoslav, castling queenside quickly and throwing the pawns up the board. h5 this early throws white off a little bit. And I mean, it's not a bad line either. I mean, that's the main reason is it's a solid line. It's not dubious. Okay, that's a good way to address it. Bishop to d7. So this is kind of going to look like a typical Yugoslav attack, I believe. So I think bishop to d7 makes sense here. And now we're going to see what white has in mind with their castling at some point. Okay, so had white not played bishop c4, had they played queen d2, I would have taken on d4, and most white players take back with the bishop. And then I would have played bishop h6, and white goes bishop e3, and we exchange the dark squared bishops. However, the other way to play this that white chose was bishop c4. So this is looking closer to the Yugoslav attack, except black has thrown in this early h5. And black has not yet played bishop to g7. So I'm kind of leaning towards bishop to g7 because I don't see this idea of swapping followed by bishop h6 to be as effective. Because I kind of need a waiting move if I really want to play that idea. I suppose I could play a6. Because a6 and b5 commonly are played. So the two ideas that I'm thinking of, bishop g7 or a6. Don't think I want to play rook c8 just yet. Rook c8 takes. Can they get away with bishop takes? b6, knight a4, knight d7. It's awkward. White having that bishop there would be quite awkward for white. But I really don't want to get too insane in the position. So maybe a6. So after a6, let's say they go queen d2. Am I really going to think about doing this idea? Or would I prefer to just go kind of a regular Yugoslav route? Okay, let's just play bishop to g7. We got to choose one of them. And one of the nice things about delaying castling for black is that if white plays queen d2, I mean, they often want to play bishop h6, but that's not available to them because now the rook is also covering the h6 square. So queen a5 makes sense here. Let's get the queen out. And we will castle eventually. Maybe we'll take on d4 and then castle, because then then this battery is disrupted. If I take one of these pieces, have to take back. I do know in the normal Yugoslav, black normally goes 95, knight c4 with the rook on c8, and then we take back. I could go for that approach. I don't have to show my hand yet either. I could just go rook c8. Which I believe I'm going to do. Okay, king b1. Useful move. Okay, let's go a6. Now we've kind of transposed into like a Dragadorf, which Ginger GM Simon Williams talks a lot about. He plays this every now and then. He actually wrote a book on this, the Dragadorf. It's like a Najdorf. So a6 early in the Sicilian is characteristic of the Najdorf. And this fianchettoing of the dark-squared bishop is characteristic of the dragon. So it's a hybrid when you play both of them. And yeah, I haven't castled yet. It's another thing that throws white off, I find, is that white a lot of the times is so used to that kingside pawn storm. But not only have I played h5, but I'm not even castled kingside. So white may decide to focus on attacking in the center with rook h to e1, perhaps. Trying to, at some point, get e5 in. The downside for me is that my rook here is not really doing anything. So at some point I will have to castle just to get him involved. Okay, h3. Yeah, a lot of white players play that. Probably because they want to go f4. I don't want to have to deal with knight g4 hitting the bishop. I don't think they necessarily want to play g4. Maybe. I mean, on g4, I mean, I suppose I could just push or even ignore it. So knight e5, f4, knight c4. Takes, takes. And then the e4 pawn is rather loose there. Yeah, that looks interesting to me. I mean, my original thinking was to take here and go b5, but now I'm liking this knight e5. Okay, let's try knight e5. It looks like we are connected again. Dropped connection for some reason. Yeah, I lost my train of thought there. Forget what I was going to say. Oh, yes. So this sacrifice is always in the air. Exchange sac. Which is much more likely when white has the pawn on f4 because often black can take and then they get the e4 pawn. That would be black's ideal setup because then they would have a pawn and a knight for a rook. So they'd only be down 1 point materially. But let's see, we're still online here, I believe. Everything from my setup seems to, yeah, we're still good. Okay, queen f2. So it looks like they're looking at bishop to b6 ideas. Now, if I take here, take and then take, it's true I get a pawn back. But I think what they can do is not capture right away. They could even play bishop to d2 so that they can take back with the bishop and they're not ruining their pawn structure around the king. I do have to be a little careful. Need to make sure I've got some squares for my queen. I think I'd be okay there. So let's hop in with a knight. Okay, so bishop to b6 is a threat. After which, if I go queen b4 a3, I believe wins the queen. Might even have to go like queen g5, which looks just downright ugly. So what I might do instead is just go queen c7. And yeah, they could go bishop to b6. They go queen c8. It's not really ideal. Maybe I go queen c6 instead. Okay, we're gonna go queen c7. So knight e2 is a nice move by white. Also secures the knight on c3. So it kind of stops all these rook takes c3 ideas that black would hope for. So I think what I'd like to do is play bishop to e6, then castles. Bishop really isn't doing much here, so on e6 at least it'd be pointing in that direction and also looking at the d5 square. If I castle right away, I'm a little concerned with g4. Okay, well, they're going to play g4 right away. So I think I want to have my knight have an escape square, and not too crazy about those ones, but knight d7 is a good spot. So let's go bishop to e6. Okay. So it's important to keep things closed, so I don't want to open things up for their rooks. It does get my rook into the game, but I think that would be beneficial to white to have that open h-file. Some possible infiltration on h7 or even h6 with bishop h6. So we just keep the h-file closed. So an interesting move here is knight f4, looking at the e6 bishop and the d5 square. Okay, so we're going to bring our knight back to this square. Okay, so my opponent simply says, hey, I just want to trade off that dark squared bishop, and can't say I blame them. So now I think I can just castle. Now that my king feels a little more secure. Now I'm ready to bring in my other rook into play, maybe with some play that way. Or I could, leave it on f8 if this bishop gets exchanged, because then the f file would be open. What do I do on f4? The idea of f5. My bishop is low on squares there. Do I play f5 myself? That seems very aggressive to say the least, but there's some advantages to doing that. But imagine they take en passant. And then I've got a couple of ways to take back. Probably take back with the rook. Taking back with the knight also makes sense because it hits the e4 pawn, but here. Just got to be concerned about the g file because f5 is always possible as a sacrifice. And the other thing I could do is to play a move like rook b4, bring the bishop this way. The only thing I don't like about, not playing f5 is that I've got to basically either bring the bishop back or put it on c4 doesn't look like it's going to be sustainable. It could be easily kicked by b3. I like having the bishop here because I want to be able to take that knight whenever it hops in. So I might have to gamble here with f5. Roll the dice and see what happens. Okay, do I take back with the rook or the knight? Really intrigued on taking back with the knight. The reason why I like that is because we've got an immediate threat. Knight d4. White should play, hit the bishop. What am I doing in response to that? Bishop f7? Bishop g8. Okay. It's a bit of a concession. So b5 with the idea of b4. Rook here, tripling up. d5 is interesting here. Knight d4. Queen c5, trading the queens. That seems prudent, given that my king position has gotten significantly weaker here. Okay, okay. Yeah, this is not looking too good. Okay, so can I sacrifice on c3? Might be my only hope here. anticipating they take back, I'm going to play queen a3. So now I'm looking at that. They can't play c4. The only move I could see was knight here. I wonder if I have time for this. If I take, I'm just going to go bishop e6 and try to use their pawn as shelter. So maybe bishop c4 is better there. All right, the thing that I'm concerned about, they take here, here, e5. I could re-sacrifice it. Okay, I suppose queen is covering e7, which is important because I'm always concerned about queen takes e7, but maybe I've got that covered. Okay, let's see what they've got. I think the idea is to play rook takes, g6. No, okay, that wasn't the idea. Interesting. Typical dragon position, chaotic. Highly tactical. So what happens if I play rook takes c3? They're going to take my knight. I take back. Guess I'm not really threatening anything there, am I? It's just simple to take here. If they take back, I think I get a very useful tempo. The idea of rook here. Okay, okay. Wish I had more time. I just ran out of steam here. Yeah, I think I'm just lost here now. Okay, nicely played. So let's see, that was fun. That was an interesting game. That's what I like about the Dragon. You rarely get boring games. Okay, so what's the evaluation here? It really doesn't like black at this point. Did I have anything? So even at this point, it says white is doing well. So I guess I just overestimated my chances. This would have been a better try. With rook c6, I did not see that idea. Also brings the rook in here, but even here it says white is for choice, and c4 makes a lot of sense. Bring the queen back if need be. All right, let's see where the evaluation changed. Engine often likes white and the dragon anyway, so I'm not surprised that it's a 1.0. Okay, so this is okay. So it likes rook takes c3. I did consider rook takes c3 here. But I dismissed it because of this move, but I did not give much thought into sacrificing the rook this way. It's not normally how you sacrifice in the dragon. I mean, the idea behind that sack is so that you get white to double up their pawns and screw up the pawn structure around the king. Not so sure about that. But anyway, I played a knight in, take. Okay, it doesn't like my queen retreat. That's another thing that I missed. I was so concerned about bishop to b6 because my queen is running low of squares, but of course I have this idea of rook c6 because now I've got that covered. I suppose if white played knight d4, then I could look into this sacrifice, I suppose. Or we could perhaps try to repeat the position. Okay, so the evaluation starts to change after bishop to d7 here in the opening. This is one thing that I don't like analyzing the computer with. Like if you're a King's Indian defense player as well, you'll know that the engine always prefers white due to the space advantage. Okay, so this has not been played. h5, so bishop c4 has not been played on lichess in this position. Interesting, I don't know why not. So knight a5, I know that's a common maneuver. But I think bishop g7 is fine, yeah. Queen to d2. Now instead of queen a5, it likes knight a5. So at this point, the engine is saying it's 0.3. That's a drastic change from 1.3. On queen a5, it says 1.3. That's interesting. So why does knight a5? So let's say h3, a6. And I guess you're waiting for white to commit to a side to castle. Let's say, I mean, engine is saying kingside castle, but why not queenside castle? b5, okay. King to b1, b4, knight d5, take on b3, take on d5, now play queen a5. Okay. Can we just take the bishop right away after knight a5? Like, is that so bad? So why can't we just take here? Suppose white does have the option to take back with a knight. And then they have bishop to d4. Okay. But even here, engine says it's all right. So it's interesting that queen a5 is such a bad move, but given how the game went, it makes sense because queen is running low of squares there. Let's see, is a6 an idea here? Interesting, engine wants to take the knight. Okay. Yeah, it really doesn't like my position here. 0.2. Okay. All right. Well, we are going to Twitch is changing chat. Okay, I'm going to have to do that before finishing the stream. But okay, we just have to grab some coffee and a quick bathroom break. So Okay, there we go. That should be it there. For some reason I had... Okay, I think we've got it now. Okay, so let's play another rapid here. Let's see who's in the lobby. Oh, we've got a 2190 player, and we have a 25-minute game. So let's try another Sicilian. And are we going to get the Smith-Morra Gambit? How have I been? I've been well. How about yourself? How's your chess studying going, Strobex? Oh, that's no good. Well, I certainly understand what you mean. I mean, I could say that I've hit a plateau, but I haven't really worked overly hard on getting better, rating-wise. But at this point in my life, I just like to play chess for fun, and I enjoy the learning process. So I'm less focused on, advancing to the next level. I mean, it can be a very frustrating game, chess. It's one of the reasons why we like it. It's not an easy game. So when we do have some success with chess, I think we tend to appreciate it a lot, given how hard it is. Yeah, I think not sure how to advise you in terms of overcoming a plateau. Maybe just try different training methods, because it's possible that it's like working out. Your body gets used to a certain way of physical training that they say that you should change your workout a little bit. Maybe it's the same idea with chess. Just and as you keep trying different things, one of the methods will click for you. Okay, I'm trying to remember how to play this. I'd seen a lecture by Ben Feingold. There was A6 and E6 that was played. But I don't remember how the knight got into play, because if I play knight here now, I think E5 is uncomfortable. If I go E6, what's going on with knight B5 here? e6, knight b5. Maybe I just go d6 there, actually. That's nothing really to worry about. Okay, let's start with e6. I need to use the fine gold defense, yeah. Is that right? He wrote a book against the Mora. Interesting. So again, how do I get this knight out? Maybe, do I go knight e7? Come out this way? That doesn't seem right. I almost think that I gotta play bishop to b4 to lop off that knight. Then I can play knight f6. That way, after taking this knight off the board, if e5, I could always jump in here. Follow it up with d5. Knight f6 now, here, here, here. Bishop f4. That's what I'm not sure of. Wonder if I can play like bishop to c5 instead of bishop b4. Bishop c5, then knight e7. Let's go a6, because I know a6 is useful. I don't know if it's this early, but I really do need to revisit this line. You have the book. Oh, you won it as door prize. Cool. Okay, okay. That's actually that might be the reason for you, Strobex. Maybe the shorter time controls is just a better fit for you. 30 with a delay of 5. It's not a bad time control. I think I'll get back to playing in person too. I like the one-day events that happen here. And I think the time control, at least they used to be, 1 hour. no increment, if I'm not mistaken. That may have changed, but that's what it was. Okay, a4. Well, now let's play bishop to b4, because now I don't have to worry about any a3 stuff. Okay. I think I'm pretty happy with how this has gone. I do know in that lecture that Feingold gave that e6 and a6 were both played. a6 in particular, just to prevent any of these annoying knight b5 moves. Yeah, I'm not so sure about a4 there. I think white would have liked to have the option to play a3 now. But I suppose with a6, you know, they probably were concerned about b5 and bishop to b7. I guess one nice thing about knight e7 is that if white ever plays e5 with the idea of trying to secure a piece into d6, I could play knight g6, and then I got both knights targeting the e5 pawn. I could also add queen to c7 to also target it. I mean, I suppose, okay, bishop there makes sense. I could go for bishop takes here, d5. We could go for a mass exchange of pieces. That might be the simplest way, actually. Because if I castle, maybe the idea is to go bishop to d6. Could go d6 now, but I've always got to worry that if this bishop is knocked away, then d6 will be lost. So like d6, knight a2, bishop c5, b4. Maybe I get a tempo on the bishop. What do they do there? Bishop d6, take, queen to e7. Is that such a problem? Go e5. Can I undermine it with f6? What about just bishop to g3 there? Then I could castle. Let's give this a try. It's a nice tempo to get. The other way to play it would have been to take on c3 and play d5 and have a massive exchanges, but this looks okay as well. Oh, I'm realizing that white would not be able to play e5 in that line. So bishop here, 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 queen e7, e5. Well, then I could just take. Because if they take back with the knight, of course, I take the queen. Okay, bishop g5. I don't think that's too concerning. I was just going to go f6. I mean, there was a good chance I was going to play f6 anyway to undermine any e5, so I don't mind playing f6 here. Despite what Mr. Feingold says about that move. So in my mind, that wasn't much of a weakness. So we're just going to castle here. And yeah, I'm just up a pawn. I mean, I'm down in development. That is one thing that white has going for them. But do they have enough compensation? Not so sure. Maybe they do, because the question is, how do I get this guy involved? Okay, I'd love to play knight a5, because I would exchange off that light squared bishop. Of course, if I do it right now, they take my bishop, so I'm going to have to secure the bishop or retreat. Or I could play queen e7, actually. That's an idea. Just to solidify the bishop and then renew this threat. Also gets off the open file. Add some support to e6. So I like that idea. Let's go there. And let's say white were to play knight a2 to try to evict that. I now have the option to play bishop c5, offer the exchange of dark squared bishops. So multi-purpose move, queen e7, and I now renew my threat of knight a5, exchanging off my knight for that light squared bishop. Whoa! We were not expecting that move. Okay, okay, I get it. I think that's just going to be an exchange. Minor pieces. If I accept the knight, I think I'm pretty much forced to accept the knight. So the idea is if I play takes, they take back. I could play my desired knight a5. Then they play d6 check. And I move the king, they take my queen, and they're also hitting my rook. So I wouldn't have time to take their queen because I'd lose my rook. So I think I got to take, and then simply move my king. But that's actually going to be okay for me because I'll take back here, which will allow my bishop to get into the action. So I think that benefited me more than it benefited white, even though it looked like a cool move. I mean, it was a cool move, but I don't think it was what white was hoping. And I think they have to take the knight. I mean, otherwise they're just down a piece here. Unless there's a move that... Right. So now I take away from the center this way. Normally they say general rule of thumb is to take towards the center, and actually I could have done it. Because then I would have had d5 in. I played that move a little too quickly, I think. I would have liked to have considered taking here, because then I'd have the open b file too. Okay, anyway, I mean, there's pros and cons. These guys are all connected now, whereas it used to be an isolated d-pawn, and my bishop now can get out. And an important detail is that my bishop is taking away the e1 square from my opponent's rooks. Otherwise, my opponent would like to play rook e1 to line it up with the queen. But that's not going to be possible here. Hey, AK09, ACO9, thank you. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so we're just up a pawn here. Okay, that's a good move. That's a good move by white because I was considering to play a5 to secure my bishop. So now my queen has to stay on that bishop. Aiko says position looks relatively pleasant. I agree. Looks good for me here. So maybe we just develop. If I go to f5, knight d4 kicks the bishop. So I'm thinking bishop g4, knight d4, and maybe rook to d8. And if they do kick my bishop, well, I can bring it back, and at least I've gotten my queen's rook into the game. So I think that's what I'm going to do. One of the downsides of playing knight d4 is that it gives me the e5 square. So I can play knight e5 at some point, putting the question to white's bishop. In fact, I might do that right away, other than moving that queen's knight. Because here, and where does that bishop go? The bishop doesn't want to be captured by the knight. It either has to go to e2 to offer the exchange, or e6 to offer the exchange. Okay, the other advantage, just thinking about white's last move, playing a5, rook a4 is a possibility too, because they want to evict that bishop. The bishop is really a pain, I think, for white. Okay, so the knight goes there. So there's two moves that I could play. It's either knight e5 or bring the rook to e8. I mean, in principle, it makes sense to bring another piece into the game. But maybe this is more pressing. Do I have to worry about knight e6 here? That's the only thing. If I take, they take my rook. I take the bishop. And then I can take the knight next move. Yeah, that looks a-okay for me. So let's do it this way. I like this one. Because it'd be nice to exchange a few pieces here. I am up a pawn. So if we can steer things to the end game, my pawn advantage should increase just because there's less pieces. Okay, knight there, so he's evicted that bishop. Okay, that's a good move. So if I take on c4, they're going to take back, and they're hitting both bishops. So I would lose a bishop. So I believe I have to move my dark squared bishop. So it's just a matter of where. Bishop c5. Bishop c5 looks good. Makes sense to me. So this should guarantee that one of the bishops is coming off. Because, whoops, we're attacking this guy and this guy. Oh, my opponent is a very tricky player. So if I take and I take, he renews that threat. And if I take here, he takes back with the rook. No, he would take on here first, because this would be pinned. So I think I've got to do it this way. Unless I'm missing something. Don't think I am. I mean, I could also keep the tension too. I suppose there's no reason for me to speed up that exchange of pieces. What if I just bring the rook here? Because that rook is not playing in the game at the moment. Maybe this is a threat, because after takes, I don't have queen c5 in that case. This is what I was hoping for. But wait a minute, after here, maybe just simply back, because there's really no useful discoveries for white there. So let's give that a try. Now, can I play bishop takes h3? It's very tempting. But I think it's refuted with bishop takes, because then they have the option of doing it this way. So let's just, I was going to go right back, but what about just bishop f5? Or even bishop here, holding on to that square. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. Well, that's not enough. Not enough. So let's trade some pieces here. Now they have to take back with the queen, otherwise I get 2 rooks for my queen. Oh, I'm really surprised by that. I don't think that's good. Generally, the 2 pieces, the 2 rooks are better. Okay, let's connect the rooks. And my opponent says, no, you don't. I'm not going to allow you to connect the rooks. So let's put the rook on an open file. I'm also cognizant of the fact that this is going to be a weakness. So I have the opportunity to go rook to d7. Rook d7 is also useful because then I can play bishop to f7. Maybe get my king out. As it stands right now, my king is stuck in the corner. So I'm going to have to speed it up here. There's no increment. Rook d7, I think, loses material. No, I've got rook d5 there. Queen f5, I've got rook d5. So if I win a5, I'm doing really well here, I think. Not seeing any tactical issues. If I take on a5, don't see any immediate forks for my opponent. So maybe what I'll do now is just go up this way. Do have to be cognizant of any sacks on f6. Yeah, that's what my opponent is banking on. This is a very tricky position with not much time left. So I think we'll simplify it this way. Now, I do know that I have to defend. But I could play King King G8. Check here. No, I can't do that. Here. So if I go here, takes, check. No, he's going to win that. Shucks. Oh, this is the only... Appears drawish now. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Okay, that might be inaccurate, that one. Oh, I guess he goes Queen E7. Yeah, Queen E7 will pick it up. I'll have to take a look after the game to see where I went wrong, but this does... Well, let's move our pawn. Why can't I take that? Ah, he's got Queen E7, that's why. Let's throw a check in. Well, he's going to beat me on time. I've only got 12 seconds. And it helps that I blunder. Okay, well, um, yeah, well, I mean, I just let the time get a hold of me, so that's unfortunate. Let's take a look there. We go wrong. Yeah, that was a nice move. I guess I was too focused on keeping this pawn. Yeah, rook f5 is what the engine recommends, which makes sense. So what happens here? I take. Yeah, that's one of my downfalls is I fall in love with an idea. I shouldn't have been so devastated by losing that pawn. Yeah, so right there it's actually saying it's equals. And h6 is just a big blunder. King g8. So king g8 would have just been a draw. Okay, well, nicely done by my opponent. Let's see if they want to play a regame. Making up words now. How about a rematch? How do I do that? Well, maybe I have to go back. Yeah, right here. Okay, it won't let me rematch. Are they playing another game? Looks like they're playing another game. All right, let's play 10-5. That's why I don't like playing without increment, especially when I'm streaming. Okay. Oh, sorry, Echo. I didn't look at bishop takes h3. Okay, I've been dabbling with this bishop e2 line, which I saw Nigel Short use in his excellent book called Winning. It's his most recent book. I think it's a fairly tame line, but it's one that you don't have to be a genius at in order to play successfully. So let's see, do I play f5? Bishop e3. Queen e1 is also a possibility. Let's go bishop e3. Let's try this one. You're a Najdorf enthusiast. Okay. Do you play on Lichess? Now I could go with f5 and then probably bishop here, g4. The idea of g5, that might actually be the way to go here. let's go with the pawn push. So they're going to get knight c5 in, putting another attacker on that guy. So I think in response to knight here, I'll play bishop to d3. Oh, what am I saying? Knight here, I just take the bishop. The bishop. The pawn storm's a common idea. So you want to have control of the d5 square, ideally. Looks like this is the fourth game between myself and Chess Prof 7777. I won the first two, and they won the last one. So nice to be able to play a strong opponent in a series of games. If I go knight c5, maybe I just take it. Because then with rook d1, then I'm pretty much guaranteed that d5 square. Nice move, nice move. So now if I go g5, they want to take here. So I go queen g2, and is their idea to play d5? I don't think so, because then I just take it. So what is the big idea? Show me the big idea. It's true, I could have just moved my bishop and the queen would have supported e4, but I like having the bishop on this diagonal because it looks at both sides of the board, and it's useful to have the queen here, not only to give the king some protection, but maybe for attacking purposes, if I get a pawn storm going or get the rooks involved. Yeah, why you traded bishops? Yes, good question. Might have been beneficial for him to leave the bishop on c4 and wait until I forced the exchange of bishops. Because my bishop on e2 is relatively benign compared to his. So maybe instead of bishop takes, b5 was more in the spirit of the position. So I'm feeling good here. I think we're doing okay. So maybe 98 here. 98 with the idea of maybe playing f6. Okay, that move, I thought I could just take, and then I'm basically owning that d5 square. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be good for black. Because not only am I improving my position, but all my moves are coming with tempo. I played g5, kicked the knight. I played knight d5. The bishop was en prise. Okay, so I don't think it's too optimistic of me saying that white should be for choice here. Now I could play f6, but I suspect they're going to go bishop to f8. So I can't imagine they're going to willingly open the g file. What if I played g6? Probably take. That doesn't seem to be getting me anywhere. I'm not using my queen's rook, so I could get that into the game, either rook d1 or rook g1, rook f1. Rook f2, rook f1 is also possible. Yeah, maybe simply just doubling up with pressure on f7. Oh, this might be a move. Queen f3. And if g6 I take, and I think they'd have to take back with the queen because they need to hold on to f7. Queen f3, g6, maybe simply f6 there. Yeah, this is one of those situations where I've got lots of choices. What about f6? Bishop here, take, bishop takes, and then knight check. But I guess maybe they take back with the king. King would be better. Oh, I think this is the way to go. think we're winning material here. If they move the king, I just take the knight, and if the knight takes, I take back, and I'm going to win that bishop. Okay, I did not think about that move, though. Can they survive this? Okay. I did not consider that move. If I go queen g5, he's got queen takes e4. He's threatening to take that. So what if I play queen to f3? If we go queen f3, is he just going to go knight f4? Oh, goodness. Am I throwing this one away as well? This is the one downside of not moving my rook when I had a chance, because it's clear that I rushed the attack because my opponent had a resource that I did not consider. Okay, well, let's try something here. Let's try to just hold on to the pawn and try to get our other pieces involved. I suspect they're going to play knight f4, and I was going to play I was looking at queen f5. Then they've got queen e6, which is a little annoying. So I might just go rook e1, get my other rook involved. I could sack the exchange. Just grab that knight and take it, get it off the board. Don't think I'd have enough to win there. I think he could just simply resack the exchange at some point. I feel like this is how the last game went against this opponent. I think I've had promising positions in all 3 games that we've played. And the last game, they defended very well. Defended very well and managed to take the victory. Okay, so let's just defend, because we have to not allow that to happen. So it looks like we might just be up a pawn here at the end of all this, which sometimes that's what you got to do. You have to be content with just being up a pawn, although maybe they can just go knight e6 here. So what do I have against knight e6? I don't think bishop h6 is doing much because the knight is looking at that. So maybe knight e6, I just bring the bishop back. Okay. Okay, so we're up a pawn. Who's got the weaker king? I think he does. I think we're okay now. All right, excellent. So let's let's go to the opening here. So castles here. Yeah, King H1, castles F4, Queen C7. Yeah, it wants to play F5 right away. Interesting. I suppose that makes sense because I'm allowing them the opportunity to quote-unquote gain a tempo, because they could argue it's taken me 2 moves to go to F4. So F5 makes sense, bishop C4, and G4 is okay. Engine actually wants to take on C4 and then play knight D2. Queen F3. Okay. Guess that makes sense, because the knight really isn't greatly placed on B3. And then it wants to do the pawn storm. Okay, that being said, it doesn't mind G4. But I can see why it says taking the bishop is recommended, because it looks like black does have D5 here. Which I failed to consider in the game. So what's going on here? If I, let's say I take here. We've got takes, knight F6. Yeah, this is slightly better for black because they're going to pick up this pawn. There's no other way to defend it twice. Okay. And if I were to do it the other way, probably doesn't matter. They go bishop to B4. G5. Bishop takes C3. We take on F6. Bishop takes, this is getting quite tactical. So apparently it's giving this as equals. Rook B1. Bishop D4. Messy position. Whoa, didn't mean to do that. Sorry about that, folks. So this makes sense to me now. This idea, because you get the valuable tempi. And, well, you develop the queen, you put the knight on potentially a better square. Ready to bring the rook involved. Okay, in the game I played G4. And yeah, I think taking and Acco9 in the chat made that comment that black should not have taken that bishop, because it helped white. You know, this bishop's not doing much here. So D5 makes sense. I thought during the game maybe knight E8, but that's potentially too slow as well. I know the engine likes this, but I suppose I'm going to sacrifice on h6, yeah. Okay, so this was the game, queen c6, queen g2, so I'm +2 here. And then I took, which is correct, g5. I played no, I hopped the knight in, that's fine. Then I played f6, bishop f8. I took, they took, and this threw away the advantage because I did not see my opponent's reply for some reason. In fact, rook f6 is the move to play here, which, had I had some patience, would have considered that move. So the idea being that if they play what they did during the game, I take back, and now they can't take back because I take back with check and then it's checkmate. So they'd have to go king h8, and I've gotten 2 pieces for the rook, plus a positional advantage. But during the game, I played takes and then I hopped the knight in, because for some reason I failed to consider bishop takes. And so at this point, it's actually saying it's equals, which makes sense to me because it wasn't so clear for me how to proceed. I played bishop g5. Engine doesn't hate. Well, now that I say that, the engine evaluation changed, so it actually slightly better for black, minus 0.2 here. Does not like my queen g4. In fact, here it's giving queen to a4. Queen to a4. So obviously they want to take here. Why do I allow them to do that? Why can't I play rook f2? Because then they go rook g6. Okay, why not queen h4 like I did in the game? And I can't take on f4? What am I missing? Ah, that's what I'm missing. Very nice. So if I take, they've got queen takes e4. I take and rook mate. Yeah, so it looks like queen a4 would have been a strong move by black. So if I go queen h4, queen here, rook f2. Now they're saying to actually go this route. And this is -1, so in black's favor. Interesting. So in the game, my opponent played rook g6, queen h4, double up, takes, takes. So it actually says queen h6 was not correct. Why? Ah, because it looks like rook g3 was not correct. Opponent should have played rook g2. And I guess the reason, because in the game, I'd have to take with the queen this way. Queen e6, rook f3 to defend, and then queen takes a2. And -0.3, so slightly in black's favor, probably with best play it's a draw. Okay, very instructive game. It just goes to show, even if you have an overwhelming positional advantage, Anything to take away from this game? Yeah, I was just saying, even though, it looked like I was crushing my opponent, you still have to be accurate. And my opponent found really good defensive resources. So it's not easy to win a chess game, folks. You have to be accurate. Okay, we'll play another one. And I just 1 second here, folks. Just got a message from a friend here. Okay, so we're gonna play another one. But I need some coffee here, folks. So I will be right back. Alrighty. Back with coffee in hand. Akko says, hopefully we can get some more Sicilian and maybe a Grenfell. Yes. We will find out. By the way, if you haven't checked out already, we've got a YouTube channel and a Discord. So you can type in !YouTube or !Discord. I'll give you the links to those respective resources. Our YouTube channel has been growing to 167 subscribers now. So we're going to get another Sicilian. So I just played the bishop to e2 line. I have played the Sozin. It's been a while since I've played the Sozin. I've also played this quirky g3 stuff. Perhaps in English, says Aiko. Well, unfortunately, I have not looked at the English attack, so I'm going to have to stick with what I know. So let's try the Sozin just to change it up here. E6 and bishop b3, as Aiko in the chat says, Fischer-Sozin, which is true. It's a favorite line of Bobby Fischer. So a lot of times now people will call it the Fischer-Sozin attack. All right, we could castle. F4, queen f3. It's been a while since I've played this, but queen f3 seems to ring a bell. Bishop g5 also seems to ring a bell. All right, let's castle, and then I might look at playing queen f3. Okay, so queen f3. I don't know if it really threatens e5 because my opponent's likely going to play bishop b7 anyway. But it's nice to get the bishop away from e6 because then there's some potential sacrifices on e6. So let's try queen f3. Okay, queen c7, and if I go e5, they're going to play bishop b7 anyway, yeah. So yeah, e5 is not really a threat here. Rook e1, queen g3. Yeah, queen g3, there's knight h5 crap. I'm not sure if I've played this correctly. Like I said, it's been a while since I've dabbled with the Sozin. Can I play bishop g5? Well, let's just go rook e1, reinforce the e-pawn. And I try not to play a3 whenever black is played. b5. I try to, as best I can, not play it, but might be a situation here where we're going to have to. Okay, that, to me, is screaming for bishop takes e6. Because at the very least, I should get 3 pawns for it. So unless I'm missing something. Maybe after here, the idea is to play b4. But then I could just play knight d5. So what's the response after bishop takes e6? Yeah, I think bishop to b7 was slightly inaccurate. I think they should have played castles there. Because the thing is, after takes, knight takes, I'm hitting the queen, so they gotta address that, and then I can take on g7. Whereas if you picture that they had already been castled, knight takes g7 would not be possible because the king could have just taken the knight. Okay, so knight f5, knight h5. Lots of possible moves here. Not sure which one is best. I'll play knight f5 just because that would take away any stuff on the g4 square. So we've got 3 pawns for the piece. So materially, we're equal, but positionally, we should be doing really well. We've got a better king position than our opponent. Bishop f4 looks good. Put some pressure on d6. Rook d1, knight d5 stuff. Oh my goodness, I completely overlooked that resource. Oh, that's a pity. Ah, that's very disappointing. Well, my opponent gave me a gift by misplaying the opening, and I give them a gift back. So I've got the Irish isolated pawns. Not quite sure why they call it the Irish, but yeah, I was getting a little cognizant of my my time. Played that bishop f4 a little too hastily. How long have we been online here? It might be the last game here. Yeah, I think we might make this one the last game. We'll see. Wonder if I can play this. The idea to improve my pawn structure. Well, let's try this one. Keep attacking d6. Okay, we got to check the king. Okay. Now I was looking at knight to e4. What are they playing there? Are they playing d5? No, they can't play d5 because this nice knight is loose. So I go knight e4, here. Maybe rook here is the idea. So even though these are ugly pawns, f3 pawn is doing a good job of taking away some squares. So let's go for this one. Okay, so they're saying if I take, they're going to go here. And how do I not lose material there? Okay, well, let's go attack this guy. Okay, now I could take on d6 with my rook. If I wanted to. Probably should try to keep my pawn structure. All right. A committal move. Yeah, just blundering. That's when you know it's a good time to wrap up the game, when I start blundering like this. Okay. Yeah, so obviously bishop f4 is not the move. So I'm +5 here, and I gave it away with bishop f4. Completely forgot about this pin. So Anjum wants to just play knight d5, which makes sense. Then we can play bishop to, yeah, just bring the pieces out. All right, well, how do we do? Feel like we lost a lot of games. So that was a loss. We won that one. Oh yes, this one I lost on time. And this one here, yeah, this was the Dragon, which was an interesting game. And the first game was a King's Gambit. That was a draw. And that was it. So we started with the King's Gambit. So, okay. Well, typical stream for me. I get promising positions. I fritter them away. But we play for fun. That's we love playing, and we're appreciative when you guys tune in. And thank you for Aco9 for coming out and joining the stream. So like I said earlier, if you haven't done so already, check out our YouTube channel. I'll put this stream on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to watch the previous games if you weren't able to see them. So until next time, folks, next stream is scheduled for Tuesday, titled Tuesday, Blitz on chess.com. So hope to see you then. Otherwise, have a good rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next time, guys.